You know, usually when I get a new iPhone in, I have the whole day to just sit down, set it up, play with it, use it, get familiarized, but that didn't happen this year. Instead, this year, I had to do what I normally do. I went on a trip, I got the phone and immediately left. I enjoyed family time. I did everything I would normally do in everyday life. And I just enjoyed these new iPhones. So the cameras are really the big story here, especially for me. Having a great camera on a phone that you can take with you everywhere is important. You want to be able to get the best quality. And this year, Apple really stepped up their game. You have those 3 lenses. You have the telephoto, you have the normal as before, and now you have a new ultra wide. Apple is doing a lot to up the quality here. They have their smart HDR, which they've had before, but now it's even better. So it analyzes scenes and is able to distinguish what's in the picture to give you the best image. And this year, it seems to do a little bit more processing. So if something needs to be dark, it'll keep it dark, whereas last year, it would kind of even everything out. But what that leads to is a great looking image. And on the video side, it takes what was already a great camera, one of the best on the market, if not the best, and it just takes it to the next level. So now you have 4K 60 all across the board, the front, the back, every camera, but it uses that HDR in real time in 4K video. So you get extremely good dynamic range, which is something you just can't get with a traditional camera. You need this kind of processing in a phone to give you this quality, and it works. Night mode is another one of those features that is extremely practical and it's just useful. And the first time you try it and it saves a photo that you otherwise couldn't get, I mean, you're sold. There's no way around that. I mean, look at this image of me shooting into a garage with no light. I did a 10-second exposure handheld and I was able to get something back. It is incredible. So overall, I mean, the camera is a minor improvement on paper, but in use, it makes a big difference. I mean, having that third lens was something I didn't really care about when I heard about it. I mean, I've used wide angle lenses on other cameras before, and honestly, I wasn't impressed. They were usually very low quality. The one here is definitely lower quality than what you get from the other cameras, but it is much better. And at least the tones match, so you can switch between them and you actually get photos that look similar to the others. But then when you pair that with things like the better photo processing, you get the much better front-facing camera, as you can see here. I mean, it's an overall package that on paper doesn't sound crazy different, but in practice, you notice it. And I think that's what you want in a camera update or any update really. You just want something that you notice day to day, and this camera provides that. So this year, I decided to switch back over to the iPhone 11 Pro instead of the iPhone 11 Pro Max. And really for me, it's just ease of use. I like to be able to use my phone with one hand, and I just can't do that with bigger phones. But what's great here is that the 11 Pro and the 11 Pro Max both have excellent screens. It doesn't matter which size you get, you're going to get a great experience. That OLED display now has a 2,000,000:1 contrast ratio, and you know, numbers all sound great, but what that means is that your brights are going to be brighter and your blacks are still going to be black, so you get more variation. And it's not a huge difference from last year's screen. You're not going to notice a mind-blowing change, but at the end of the day, you're getting a phone that performs at the top of its class, and you can tell when you look at it. One of the things I was nervous going to the smaller phone compared to the bigger one was battery life. You get that smaller battery, which in the XS honestly wasn't very good, but so far here, I've been impressed. But you know, honestly, it's not really that big of a deal to me. I usually have access to either a wireless charger or a cable, or here in the car I can plug in. It's just a situation that I'm never really in. I don't need to last throughout the day all the time. But it does come in handy for certain situations. For instance, I'm on a trip right now. That is always nice to have extra battery life, especially when you don't have something like a battery case, which isn't out for this phone just yet, from Apple at least. But it is rather impressive that the battery life is so much better year over year compared to last year's phone. And I've noticed that even in the smaller phone, I'm getting at least as good or even better as what I got with just the XS Max. Now, aside from the kind of big marketed features, honestly, there's really nothing new with this phone, especially if you're coming from something like the iPhone XS. You know, I've said this before, I'll say it again. What really matters is what you get out of a phone. The specs, the features on paper don't mean anything if when you actually use the device, it doesn't serve you well. And the reason I use an iPhone year after year is because it serves you well. When I pick up that new camera and I take images and I get reliable results that I wasn't able to before, I get that ultra wide image, or I get that night shot, or when I need to capture a quick video and I know it's gonna look great. And even down to the little things like I know that this phone is going to get updates for the next 4 or 5 years. These things make a practical difference in my life. You know, it's easy to hate on Apple because their phones are expensive, and they are. But you can't deny that you're getting what you paid for. Sure, you can get these features other places, but you know exactly what you'll get if you choose this one.